When Jesus died on the cross for our sins, did he descend into hell? And if so, why did he do that? Let's dig into this. In Revelation chapter 1, Jesus tells John, "Fear not, I am the first and the last and the living one. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore. And I have the keys of death and Hades." What keys to death and Hades? Are death and Hades places or entities, or both? Are there any other keys? Let's take a look at Revelation 3. "And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia wrote, the words of the Holy One, the true One, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, who shuts and no one opens." Wait, is this the same as the key to death and Hades or another key? This language John uses here regarding the keys links the two verses together. We need to look at this terminology as a link, or we could say the key to understanding. The phrase, "I have the keys to death and Hades," refers to the cosmic sovereignty which Jesus has attained following the act of God raising him from the dead. All three elements are featured in the brief description of the Lamb in Revelation 5 verse 6, which was standing as though slain, with 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. Here, standing refers to the fact that he is now living, despite the fact that he was slain, and the 7 eyes understood as the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth is another symbolic way of emphasizing the sovereignty of Jesus Christ, who is the Lamb. Revelation chapter 1 verses 9 through 20 is complex prophetic imagery, and not something we'll be diving into today. But you should know what's happening here. Supernatural revealer, which is said to be like the Son of Man, appears to John and claims to be the new owner of the keys to death and Hades. We need to think of these as places or dimensional areas in a way, but also personified entities. Christ will overcome them. And in 2 Samuel chapter 22, death is described as using the waves of the sea to overcome the living. Then Paul later says, "O death, where is thy sting?" As if death itself can sting. So I just want to highlight how the Bible conceptualizes death and Hades as a place with personality. So with that background in place, let's jump into 1 Peter chapter 3, starting in verse 18. "For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the Spirit, in which he went and proclaimed to the spirits in prison, because they formerly did not obey, when God's patience waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was being prepared, in which a few, that is, 8 persons, were brought safely through water." There is an implication here that because Jesus died and rose again, he was granted authority and ownership of keys to death and Hades. Meaning, before he died and rose again, he didn't have the keys to death and Hades. Jesus dies on the cross having lived a perfect life. He dies and descends to hell and Hades. And because of his perfect life and then the resurrection, Jesus is the new owner of the keys. Satan was the previous owner. So back to verse 18. Jesus dies on the cross and was made alive in the Spirit, in which he went and preached to the spirits in prison, because they disobeyed during the days of Noah. Who are these spirits? Why is it specific to the days of Noah? When Jesus descends into the underworld, the immediate reaction from the inhabitants must be joy. Why? Because Jesus is the one who sent the spirits there. What spirits? The spirits of the watchers that sinned against God at the time of Noah, the fathers of the Nephilim. Peter didn't include people that died after the flood, even though we may assume from Luke 16 that their souls are also pending in the underworld. He only speaks of the spirits who specifically did not obey God at the time of Noah, that is, the time before the flood. So not only does Christ preach to the imprisoned watcher spirits, reiterating their doom, but he also takes the lunch money from them in a way. They see him show up in the spirit, and their first thought must be, "Oh wow, he was killed and he failed in his mission, and now he's down here with us." But then Jesus begins preaching to them about how he was actually successful, and on his way back out as he's resurrected, he grabs the keys to the underworld. "Oh, by the way, these are mine now. I'm the one who has control over who ends up here." I want to reiterate here from 2 Peter 2 verse 4 why it's the watchers that sinned against God before the flood to which Jesus preaches. "For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment, these angels will be kept until the judgment in the underworld." Now, some people will argue that no, Jesus went and preached to people who were awaiting the final judgment. These are people to whom were otherwise going to be sent to hell. And maybe he spoke to those people as well. There isn't any evidence to support this as being what happened or not what happened. But what the Bible does specify is that Jesus preached to those spirits that did not obey God before the flood. Before, not since the flood, before the flood. This implies that it's related to the sins of the watchers. So we have people and spirits who are in hell, or another way of saying it is that we have people and spirits in death and Hades. Death, Hades, hell, the underworld. All of these terms mean the same thing. It's the holding place for those who are not with Jesus. And Revelation chapter 2 says, Death and Hades gave up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one of them, according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. With this verse, we again see a personification of a place. But it also confirms that hell is just a holding place. Think of death and Hades like a basket, and at the end the basket is thrown into the lake of fire with everyone in it who does not follow Jesus. I hope you find blessing in this. Thank you for watching. I encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss any content upcoming. If you have any specific topic you would like me to discuss, please let me know in the comments.